What do you think is the optimal for you personally? Answer for you personally and at for anyone. The optimal feeding window per day in hours.
For me personally, my
to to
optimal,
to to feel good and like maintain solid body comp.
yeah, I would say for me personally, it would be somewhere between like 11 and 12, 11 a.m., 12 p.m. starting and like 10 p.m. ending would
Mm,
probably be my time range. That
mm.
would be like the time window that I would have like feeding versus fasting. What about you?
So that puts you at 10 to 11 hours as the feeding window where you feel best.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I literally have written here. The 10 to 12 hour feeding window is amazing and the best for fat loss.
Yeah. Why'd you write that?
Just something I remembered from times being in a slight deficit and feeling really good.
Mm,
It's different for everyone, right? And obviously, like we throw in feel good because different meal timing works for different people. Some people like a huge breakfast right when they wake up, others don't. Uh, Meal timing doesn't really matter for progress, except to the extent that it lets you hit your calories, protein, macros, food quality, etc. during the day. But not eating for the first couple hours of the day and then also not stuffing my face right before bed just feels
mm,
good most of the time and
yeah.
allows me to like stay reasonably full on a reasonable number of calories.
Yeah, I agree. And also, it's not such a long fasting window that you ever get really, really hungry either. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good balance of both. I think it's one of the issues with people who try and extend their fasting window super long. By the time they break their fast, they're just freaking like ravenous. And then that often makes the feeding window less enjoyable and less filling because they start off so ravenous to begin with, and it makes it harder to stick to.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. On the other side of the coin, you have people who don't want to have any quote unquote fast, meaning like they start to get say so 11 a.m. is when you 11, 12 is when you have your first meal. If around 9 or 10 a.m. someone starts to feel a little bit hungry, if your goal is fat loss, that's normal. That's like
Mm-hmm.
you should be feeling a little bit hungry at times and embracing that feeling, not starving, obviously, not unable to focus or do whatever you need to do, but learning to embrace that feeling is going to help you in the long run.
Yes. Yeah, and if you're not hungry, then you're not in a deficit. But I remember when I was younger, I read an amazing quote from Dan John about strength training, and it was to the effect of soreness. Being sore isn't an illness or something like that. Like it's not an emergency to be sore. Like it's okay. Like and it came from a place of understanding that a lot of people like, oh my God, like I get so sore, I'm going to get so sore, and they get worried, and that prevents them from training. He's like, it's not a bad thing. Like it's not a marker that you're making progress inherently, but you shouldn't avoid soreness for the sake of avoiding soreness. And that made me think a lot about hunger and how a lot of people will avoid reducing calories because they're going to get hungry. And it's like hunger is not an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
It's hunger is and especially in recent years, it's been demonized at the slightest whisper of hunger. Just eat whatever you want, queen, eat whatever you want, king, like what, like you deserve it, you've earned it, like whatever. It's like, oh my God, like it at the slightest hint of a oh my God, maybe I could eat something right now, it's like, well, go have that cookie, go have that bag of chips. It's like you couldn't say, like, I don't know, have some water and maybe an apple, or like, I don't know, wait 20 minutes and see if like the hunger dissipates. Like it's very odd to see how many people like really freak out about it.
And here's where I really like the 11, 12 hours, 10, 11, 12 hours just kind of naturally being a feeding window rather than trying to do something like 18-6, where you're confining everything into a 6-hour window or a 4-hour eating window or one meal a day, is that say you wake up at 6 a.m. and you're not going to eat anything until, say, your feeding window's 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., going from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I did this back in the day. I played with like larger windows on daily intermittent fasting. There's no way to avoid hunger. Like no matter how many, not no matter how many, but if you're eating the same number of calories, if you're eating 2,000 calories in a 6-hour window compared to a 10-hour window, when you eat those 2,000 calories in a 6-hour window, the next day when you have to be awake for 9 hours and you don't want to just abuse caffeine, like you're going to get hungry to the point where it's detrimental to your life. And so having a little bit smaller meals, perhaps having more meals and spreading them out over a longer period of time helps a lot.
Yeah, completely agree.